Most people spend their entire lives trapped in the first stage of learning without ever knowing it exists. They follow rules mechanically, repeat what they have been taught, and mistake compliance for competence. They never progress, they never transcend, they never become masters. But there is a framework developed centuries ago by Japanese masters that reveals exactly why most people fail and exactly how the rare few succeed. It is called Shuhari, and it changes everything about how you understand mastery itself. In 1985, a man named Kenji Nakamura was hired as an apprentice at a traditional Japanese carpentry workshop in Kyoto. He was 23 years old, ambitious, and confident in his abilities. Within 3 months, he wanted to quit. His master, an elderly carpenter named Takeshi Yamamoto, had given him a single task: cut wood. For 3 months, that was all Kenji did. He cut wood the same way, in the same direction, with the same pressure day after day. He was not allowed to improvise. He was not allowed to experiment. He was not allowed to ask why. He simply cut wood. Kenji felt humiliated. He felt wasted. He felt like a machine. What he did not understand was that he was in the first stage of mastery. He was in Shu. Shuhari is a Japanese concept that describes the 3 stages through which every master must pass. The word itself breaks into 3 parts: Shu, Ha, and Ri. Shu means to protect, to follow, to obey. Ha means to break, to diverge, to question. Ri means to leave, to transcend, to become one with the principle. Most people never progress past Shu because they do not understand what Shu actually is. They think Shu is punishment. They think Shu is beneath them. They think Shu is something to escape as quickly as possible. But Shu is actually the foundation of everything that comes after. Shu is where mastery is born. The Shu stage is about absolute obedience to form. There is no interpretation. There is no personal style. There is no creativity. There is only the rules, and the rules must be followed with perfect precision. This is not oppression. This is liberation. When you enter Shu, you release the burden of deciding. You release the weight of figuring things out on your own. You simply follow the form until the form becomes automatic, until it lives in your hands and your body and your intuition rather than in your conscious mind. This is why Kenji's master made him cut wood the same way for months. Every cut was building neural pathways. Every repetition was carving the form into his being. The master was not wasting his time. The master was building his foundation. But Kenji did not understand this. He saw only restriction. He saw only repetition. He saw only boredom. So he almost quit. And then, one morning, something shifted. Kenji was cutting wood when he realized that he was no longer thinking about how to cut. His hands knew. His body knew. The saw moved without instruction from his mind. He had crossed an invisible threshold. He was still following the exact same rules, but the rules no longer felt like rules. They felt like nature. This is the completion of Shu. This is the moment when the external form becomes internal reality. When Kenji reached this point, his master changed everything. Suddenly, Yamamoto began showing him variations. He showed him different ways to hold the saw, different angles, different pressures. He explained the principle behind the original form and how that principle could be applied in different contexts. He asked Kenji to experiment, to question, to find his own way within the framework. This was the beginning of Ha. Kenji was no longer being told what to do. He was being told why the original form existed, and now he could begin to break it, to adapt it, to make it his own. The rules that had felt like a prison now felt like a language. And once you have a language, you can speak in infinite ways. The Ha stage typically takes years. It is the stage where you develop personal style, where you begin to understand the deeper principles underneath the surface forms, where you start to see the gaps between the rule and the reality it is meant to address. In traditional arts, this is where a student becomes a journeyman. In martial arts, this is where a black belt discovers that black belt means nothing. In any field, Ha is the stage where you stop being a copy and start becoming an artist. But here is where most people get stuck. They reach Ha, they taste freedom, and they do not want to go deeper. They think they have arrived, they think they understand, they think they are masters. They are actually just beginning. Kenji spent 7 years in Ha. He developed his own techniques. He created his own innovations. He began to teach younger apprentices. He felt proud of his work. He felt accomplished. And then, one day, his master sat him down and said something that shattered his confidence. Yamamoto said, "You have learned well, but you are still thinking about woodworking. A true master does not think about woodworking. A true master simply makes wood speak." Kenji did not understand. He had become so good at adapting, so skilled at applying principles creatively, that he assumed he had finished the journey. But he was actually at a threshold. He was standing at the entrance to Ri. Ri is the final stage, and it is almost impossible to describe because it exists beyond form, beyond rules, beyond even the conscious application of principles. Ri is when the master has internalized the rules so completely that the rules no longer exist. When a musician reaches Ri, they no longer think about music theory. They simply play, and the theory flows through their fingers without direction. When a martial artist reaches Ri, they no longer think about technique. They simply move, and decades of training express itself as pure response. When a master carpenter reaches Rai, they no longer think about joints and angles and pressure. They simply work, and the wood becomes what it was always meant to become. Ri is the return to innocence, but it is an innocence earned through 1,000 hours of discipline. Kenji could not rush Ri. Nobody can. Ri is not an achievement. It is a surrender. It is what happens when you have practiced something so completely that you become one with it, when there is no separation between the one who acts and the action itself. Kenji spent the next 15 years practicing in this way. He would work, and sometimes he would lose hours without remembering them. He would emerge from a project with no memory of how he created it, only the knowledge that it was perfect. His master would visit him occasionally and simply nod. Eventually, his master stopped visiting at all. Kenji had arrived at Ri not through ambition, but through the dissolution of ambition. The tragedy of modern education is that it tries to skip Shu entirely. It tries to make everyone instantly creative, instantly innovative, instantly expressive. A child learns to write and is immediately encouraged to find their own voice. A student learns an instrument and is quickly pushed toward personal interpretation. We have confused freedom with mastery. We have confused expression with understanding. We have created generations of people who know how to follow no rules and know how to follow all rules, who are neither disciplined nor free, who are neither true beginners nor true masters. They are trapped in a middle ground, forever amateur, forever searching for the secret that does not exist. The secret, if there is one, is that mastery requires surrendering your need to be original before you can truly be original. It requires spending years following rules you do not yet understand until those rules become transparent and the principle underneath becomes visible. It requires patience, humility, and the willingness to be boring for years so that you can eventually be transcendent. This is why the samurai value discipline so intensely. Discipline is not oppression. Discipline is the path through Shu. Every hour of sword training, every meditation, every repetition was moving the warrior through the first stage toward mastery. The samurai understood that you cannot skip Shu and reach Ri. The journey matters, the struggle matters, the repetition matters. Where are you right now in your own mastery? Are you in Shu following forms, learning the rules, building your foundation? If so, do not rebel against it. Do not think it is beneath you. Understand that every master who ever lived stood exactly where you are standing. They felt exactly what you feel, and they chose to continue. Are you in awe, adapting, experimenting, finding your voice? If so, remember that your voice is not your destination. Your voice is a station on a much longer journey. Do not mistake the pride of innovation for the completion of mastery. And if you are in Ri, if you have reached the point where your skill is invisible because it has become natural, where you no longer think about what you do because what you do has become who you are, then you understand the entire teaching. You understand that mastery is not a destination. Mastery is a way of being. This is the last stage, and it is also the first, because once you have reached Ri in one discipline, you must begin again at Shu in another. The journey never ends. Mastery is not an arrival. It is a direction. It is a commitment to the idea that there is always something deeper, always something more refined, always another level of understanding waiting beneath what you think you already know. This is why the greatest masters are often the most humble. They have walked the path far enough to understand how vast the journey actually is. They have reached Ri and discovered that Ri is simply the next Shu. The teaching of Shuhari shows you that mastery is not about being better than others. It is about being better than who you were yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that, moving forward through discipline, through surrender, through the three stages that lead you home to yourself.